What's up guys, it's Robin here, and this video is going to be an Ornn item guide. Ornn has been an S tier legend for like the past 3 or 4 patches. This video I'm going to talk about when to take each Ornn item, who are some good early game item holders for the Ornn item, and then who holds the items late game. This is usually when you take Portable Forge at 2-1. So this isn't really when, like, I usually don't take Portable Forge at like stage 3 or 4. So this is mostly for people who play the Ornn legend and are taking Portable Forge at 2-1. Number 1, I'm just sorting it by like average placement. You can kind of see which one's the best to the worst. You know, everything from like Tricksters all the way up to like Snipers is like pretty takeable. I usually don't take the bottom 3, but sometimes you are forced to take it. So you still have to know about those 3, I guess. Number 1, Trickster's Glass. Always good to take Trickster's Glass at any situation. Usually you do want to take it when you have an upgraded frontline or backline unit. You can get more value from it because it clones the unit. Some good early game holders, Samira 2. If you have a Samira 2, definitely think about taking Tricksters, because 2 Samira 2s is so OP because they both shred this armor on the same unit, and usually the unit can go to negative values of armor. So you do like true damage, like more than true damage. But basically, 2 Samira 2s is very good. 2 Jin 2s is also very good because the Trickster's Jin procs Deadeye. So Deadeye is always good. You know, if you have a Malzahar 2, it's also good on Malzahar 2. If you have a Renekton 2, 2 Renekton 2s is always good value early game. If you have a Maokai 2, double Maokai is also good early game. When you're playing, if you're playing Tristana reroll, you know, getting 2 Maokai 3s is really good. So you can definitely think about doing that. So it's pretty easy. Early game, just put it on your upgraded unit, whether it's frontline or backline. I would say it's backline preferred. I would say backline units probably get more value out of the Tricksters, especially if it has another effect like the Deadeye proc or the Samira Armor Shred. Another unit that's really good with Tricksters is Callista. If you get a Callista from Orb, definitely think about taking Tricksters. 2 Callistas share the same spear rends, so they rend the target faster. You just put 1 Akshan on each side, and you can snipe whatever direction backline you want. Onto the late game. Who do you put Tricksters on late game? You know, if you're playing AD flex, usually you want to put it on Urgot. Urgot probably goes in most of the AD boards right now, so double Urgot 2s is a menace. You can also put it on, if you're playing Sejuani, double Sejuani is good. Probably, like, you know, double Jarvan is also decent. You can cover both sides and stun both sides. Double Shen is decent as well. In some cases, you can actually Tricksters your carry if you only have like 2 damage items. Getting 2 Aphelios 2s is not bad. 2 Zeri 2s is not bad. And then 2 Lux 2s is also not bad. TLDR, Tricksters your upgraded unit early game into your into like a frontline unit or a bruiser unit late game. Next up, Deathfire Grasp. Probably the strongest AP item or an item that you can get. I would take this if I have an AP opener. If you have an AP opener, I'm taking this over anything else. You just Deathfire Grasp your early game carry. Let's say you have a Malzahar 2. You Deathfire Grasp Malzahar, and then you always want to go to work towards Lux, and you want to Deathfire Grasp Lux, because DFG Lux is best in slot. You just kill whatever unit she's facing. Let's say you're playing Invokers, which is the other AP comp. You can put DFG on Karma, which is your other carry. Let's say somehow you're playing Challengers, you just have to put it on Kai'Sa, which is like, it's kind of mid, but yeah, I would not play Challengers if I get DFG. Next up, Gold Collector. I would take this if I have an upgraded backline carry, preferably AD, backline AD unit, and it's even better if you have a slammable AD item. So let's say you have a Jin 2, then Gold Collector, and let's say you have a Jin 2 and you can slam a DB, Gold Collector would be super value here. If you have a Samira 2 with Runons, definitely think about taking Gold Collector. And then if you have a Jinx is a really good Gold Collector unit. If you get a Jinx from Orb, definitely think about taking it. Callista is very good because you're always running the target. And then the best unit to hold Gold Collector early game is going to be Akshan. Akshan just like gets so many kills that like you just get so much gold. And it's even better, especially with Runons, because Runon bolts actually proc Gold Collector. So that's really good. All right, late game. Who do you put Gold Collector on? You have a couple options here. If you end up only having 2 damage items on your carry, you can put Gold Collector as your 3rd item. Let's say you have DB Runons here. Then you can put Gold Collector here as your third item. It's not the best third item, but you know, you don't want to like greed it too hard. Gold Collector can still farm you a lot of gold, so it's still a lot of value. Let's say you have a three damage items already by the time you pivot into this comp. Let's say you have like a Ginsu here. Then you can put Gold Collector on your secondary carry. So you can put it on Urgot, or you can put it on Jinx. Next up, we have Eternal Winter. Eternal Winter, still very, very strong. I would take this if I have an upgraded frontline unit. It's especially better if I have a tank item to go with it as well. For instance, if you have a Renekton 2 and you have a Warmogs that you're able to slam, definitely think about taking the Eternal Winter. You know, what do you want to take? If you have a Renekton 2 with Warmogs, do you want to take Eternal Winter or do you want to take Tricksters? So usually you want to take Eternal Winter because Eternal Winter with Warmogs gets super, gets like infinite value. And this one is pretty self-explanatory. For Eternal Winter, you just put it on your tankiest unit early game into your tankiest unit late game. So Renekton 2 early game into a Sejuani late game. Sejuani is especially good with Eternal Winter because her passive works with Eternal Winter. Nasus is also very, very good with Eternal Winter, and Shen is also very good with Eternal Winter. So if you're playing AD, definitely think about putting Eternal Winter on Sejuani, Nasus, or Shen. Like, whatever unit is 2-starred, and you end up putting your other tank items on, right? If you're playing AP, you're probably not playing these units. So you probably are going to end up putting it on Taric, Swain. Shen 2 is the best to put it on, but a lot of AP games, you don't get to put it on Shen 2. Because you're rolling on 7, you probably have a Taric 2. You should probably just prop it on Taric 2, or you just pop it on Kassadin 2 or something. Next up, Manazane. This item is basically, it's also an AP item. And I would only take this when I have an AP opener and I didn't hit Deathfire Grasp. So let's say you have a Malzahar 2. Definitely think about taking the Manazane. However, if you hit Tricksters or Eternal Winter or something, I'll probably take those before Manazane. Because the problem with Manazane is that it's pretty decent early game, but late game, there's not that many good Manazane holders. The best Manazane holder is Ahri, but you're not guaranteed to hit Ahri. So it's kind of risky. A lot of games, you're going to end up putting it on Lux. But the thing about Lux is that you usually have at least 2 damage items. And in your third item, you want Radiant item. So a lot of times, you don't even end up putting Manazane on the Lux. You end up putting it on Vel'Koz or something. Or like Jarvan. And it's just like not that much value. But basically, you just put Manazane on your early game AP holder into your late game, like Lux, Jarvan, or ideally is Ahri. Manazane Ahri is like super busted. So if you pick Manazane, you want to try everything possible to try to get to Ahri, basically. Next up, that's Defiance. I'm rarely taking this item because this item at 2-1 is not very good on any early game units. The only units that it's good on are probably the reroll comps. If you're playing Noxus reroll, you get a Darius from Orb. That's Defiance is very, very good. You almost always want to take that and force Noxus. Let's say you get Ravenous Hunter, you're playing Warwick reroll. That's Defiance is also good on Warwick. And then let's say you have a Rek'Sai Orb and you're playing Rek'Sai reroll. That's Defiance is very good on Rek'Sai. But other than that, you know, the early game units can't really use Defiance that well. Like Jhin can't really use it that well. Samira can't really use it that well. Jinx can't really use it that well. So I'm rarely taking this item. But if you have the angle for the reroll comp, I would take Defiance. Another, you know, Defiance is pretty good on some late game units. It's very good on Urgot and it's very good on Yasuo. But then you would only take it if you have a line into Urgot or Yasuo that also has a lot of value early game, right? So in my mind, I would say the only time you have that is like, let's say you hit like a Warwick 2 out of nowhere early game. And then you have like, you know, like a Ginsu on Warwick or something. Then you can take that Defiance and then play towards Yasuo or Urgot, basically. Next up, Infinity Force. Any unit can use this item. It's a good item to take always. So if you take it, you pop it on like any unit, basically. You can pop it on AP units. You can pop it on AD units. You can pop it on tank units. They'll all get the value from it. And in late game, you just put it on your carry. Lux can use it pretty well. Azir can use it pretty well. And then, you know, even, and especially like Aphelios, Akshan, Ziri, Urgot, Yasuo, they can all use it very well. Next up, we have Randuins. I'm rarely taking this item because it kind of messes up your positioning a little bit. Early game is pretty strong. You just position like a hexagon like this, you can get a lot of value from it. You usually want to put it on a like your sub tank unit, not your main tank, because you want to put it in the middle, right? So like someone like Taric is pretty good because you don't really want to solo frontline Taric. So Randuin is pretty good here. Early game, you want to position in a hexagon to get max value. But around stage 4, stage 5 late game, you kind of want to just frontline your Randuins and get Randuins on your frontline units only. I would only take Randuins if my other two options are like pretty bad. Let's say you have an AD opener and your options are Deathfire Grasp, Manazane, and Randuins. I would probably take Randuins. But other than that, I would probably steer away from Randuins. Next up, we have Anima Visage. Anima Visage is probably just like a weaker version of Eternal Winter. You usually want to take it when you have an upgraded frontline unit, and it gets even better if you have a slammable tank item. Let's say you have a Warmox Renekton 2 opener. The Spirit Visage actually gets infinite value and is actually pretty good early game. You just put it on your main tank early game into your main tank late game. It's pretty self-explanatory. However, if I had the option of taking Eternal Winter or Visage, it's always going to be Eternal Winter. It probably gets way more value than Visage. Next up, we have Sniper's Focus. This item got nerfed. It used to be really broken, but now it's like kind of mid. I would only take it if I have an upgraded backline unit. So Jin 2, Malzahar 2, or like, you know, Samira 2. Pretty good spot to take snipers. However, if I have the decision between snipers, Infinity Force, or Gold Collector, I would probably pick Gold Collector or Infinity Force over snipers. Just because sniper stats are like not that good now. Late game units, Aphelios, Zeri, Kaisa, Lux. Any unit that stays in the backline is really good for snipers. Tristana reroll. Tristana is very good for snipers as well. Next up, Obsidian Cleaver. I'm also rarely taking this item because right now 3 Freljord is meta, so you usually don't really need a shred item, but some cases you have to take this. Let's say you have an AD opener and you end up getting Manazane, Deathfire Grasp, and Obsidian Cleaver. Then you're forced to take Obsidian Cleaver. Not the worst item. It's free shred, and in late game you probably just don't play Freljord. So let's say you have a Samira 2 with like a DB opener, and then your other items are pretty bad. Then you can probably take Black Cleaver here. Let's say you have a Samira 2, but you have a Renekton 1 and a Vi 1. And your options are Obsidian Cleaver, Deathfire Grasp, and like Death's Defiance or something. Then you're probably taking Obsidian Cleaver, right? Because it gets the most value. Even in this case, let's say your options are like Spirit Visage or Obsidian Cleaver. I would probably take Obsidian Cleaver as well, because this gets way more value than like a 1-star Spirit Visage, right? So usually taking this when you have an AD opener, and the other two options are like not as good. Next up, Hullcrusher. Also one of the more worse Ornn items. It's like a tank item, but like it gives you attack speed, so it's kind of weird. Usually early game, you just want to pop it on your main tank, 2-star tank, and you just want to solo frontline it to get Hullcrusher value, and then you just pivot into your late game tank. Usually, Hullcrusher. I will say Hullcrusher is pretty decent on like early game, like early game like fighters such as like Darius, or like if you're playing Noxus reroll, Katarina and Darius can hold Hullcrusher pretty well. If you have a Rek'Sai can hold Hullcrusher as well, good as well. But most games, you're just putting Hullcrusher. If you're forced to take Hullcrusher, you're just putting on your main tank into your main tank late game. But basically, if you have like Visage or Eternal Winter, I would take those two over Hullcrusher any day. Last up, we have Zhonya's Paradox. This item is like really bad in the meta right now because the best units for Zhonya's is Kaisa and Azir. But right now, Kaisa and Azir are not that good. So maybe when those units become better, this will become better. But this is just like probably the worst Ornn item in the game. You probably will never want to take this. I think the only time you would take this is if you have a strong AP opener, like Malzahar 2, and then you get like Obsidian Cleaver, Death's Defiance, and like Zhonya's. Then you probably want to take Zhonya's and Malzahar and then try to play towards, you know, Lux, Azir, or like Ahri, or like Kaisa, basically. But usually I would not, I rarely take this item. That's it for the Ornn guide. Hopefully this video will help you know what items to take. and what units to put it on early into late game. Peace.